Give yourself a moment to mourn your original vision. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. So it's okay to be upset.
Hi, I'm John from BGB Wedding Films, and welcome to Say Yes to the Best, where we talk to the best wedding pros to give you wedding planning advice. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. We have new content all the time to help you navigate your wedding planning. And I think now more than ever, people are a little unsure of how to proceed with weddings. Maybe you already had a wedding affected where you've had to move the date or even cancel. Maybe you have a wedding coming up in the summer and the fall, and you're kind of wondering, how am I going to be affected? Will anything change with my wedding, assuming everything goes back to normal like we all hope it does? Jasmine from Let It Be Lovely Events, Desiree from Devoted Wolf Events, and Billie from Best Day Ever Weddings reached out to me to share some of their knowledge as wedding planners on what you should do to navigate this kind of crazy time with your wedding. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jasmine.
We are so incredibly sorry for everything you're going through and that you have to go through this. We understand that you have been planning this for so long and that you have a ton of emotions, and we 100% share in your devastation. It's heartbreaking and we get it. So luckily there are phenomenal vendors in this industry who should all be just as understanding and are going above and beyond to assist you during this time. Our goal here is to comfort you and help you reorganize your thoughts so that you can have as close to that dream wedding as possible. And for our clients, we want you to know that you're not alone. We're here for you every single step of the way. So we've collected some common questions and issues across the board that we've been getting from our clients, and we tried to put those together. So we want to thank John from PGP Weddings for putting this together and helping us kind of get that information out to so many of the affected couples. So now let's get you all married. So do you cancel or postpone? Big question. A lot of time and energy and, most importantly, money has been invested into this big day that you've been envisioning probably since the day that you got engaged. And let's be real, probably well before that. Now, if you cancel, unfortunately, you will not receive any refunds for the money that you've already put out. And in some cases, or most cases, you will most likely be responsible for a large percentage of the balance, again, if you cancel. Most reputable vendors are more than understanding of the situation, and they're going to be willing to work with you and be as accommodating as possible. So we're all in this together, and we still want you to be able to have that wedding of your dreams, even if it looks a little bit different than your original plan. So the very first thing, and probably the very most important thing for you, is to give yourself a moment to mourn your original vision. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. So it's okay to be upset. I mean, we all are. We're all angry. It's okay. It's okay to be angry and upset and have all these emotions. So once you've processed those emotions, talk to your wedding planner if you have one. You know, your wedding celebration, if you are a bride for April, May, possibly June going forward, we don't know yet. But if your wedding celebration is for those months, it most likely will not be on your original date with your original plans. But you still want to marry that person, spend the rest of your life with that person, and your family and friends, they still want to celebrate you guys as a couple. So by postponing your wedding, that allows you to have that celebration without losing everything. You might have less guests, and think about it, less guests means less costly, whether it's, less centerpieces, less favors, less like seating chart names, less welcome bags, all of those things. I mean, they add up. You might have in your contract guest count minimums, but again, your venue, everyone understands the situation, and they might be willing to work with you on that. And maybe throw in other things for that money that you are paying for guests that aren't, coming. Pushing back your date, it also gives you more time to save that money, whether it's saving more cash to pay for the wedding itself, or if there was something that you wanted that wasn't quite in your budget before, with your new adjusted guest counts and more time to save, maybe now it's something that you can include, maybe something special. So definitely really consider postponing rather than canceling altogether, because everyone is looking forward to happier times. So give yourselves that and give your guests something to look forward to.
With all the uncertainty going around, unless you have a crystal ball, it's going to be really tough to determine when restrictions are going to be lifted. So couples that are getting married in May, June, and July, what do you do now? But just know that those restrictions will be lifted. So in the meantime, it's always good to have a contingency plan in place. You want to be ready once those restrictions are lifted, and you want it to be seamless. So I know it hurts to hear it, but at this point, May weddings should really be postponed. June and July couples, you really need to start thinking about what you want your wedding to look like. If you postpone, you may end up with a fall or a winter wedding instead of your spring or summer that you had dreamed about, especially if those are the only dates that your venue has available. If you decide not to postpone and your venue is comfortable with hosting the wedding, you're likely looking at a smaller guest list. A lot of your guests may not be comfortable with travel as soon as the restrictions open, so keep that in mind. You might be looking at a few new safety measures too. If you were planning on having a buffet-style wedding, your caterer might ask you to switch to plated for the safety of your guests as well as the staff. Seating will probably be more spread out around the tables, but that just gives guests more room to look at your beautiful centerpieces. And if you're thinking about having a receiving line, I think we can all agree that this is the best time to see that trend disappear. So yes, May, postpone. Don't stress, know that you have vendors that'll take care of you. And June and July, I think we do need to be taking these on a case-by-case basis. It's probably going to come down to personal preference, but there are always ways around it. Love is not canceled.
So your destination wedding is scheduled for May, June, July of 2020, should you postpone. As a certified wedding planner and an independent travel agent, I specialize in honeymoons and destination weddings. So I've been working with a lot of couples regarding their travel plans. And in terms of May through July weddings, again, it really comes down to what your contracts say and what the status is of this pandemic. But many resorts are currently closed and unable to even accommodate weddings at this time, but they're being super flexible about rescheduling to a later date because it's not their fault, it's not your fault. They want to help you and they want to make sure you can still have your day without any additional fees. So make sure you know your contract. With many travel restrictions and limited travel options, limited flight schedules, I would recommend reaching out to your travel agent if you have one and postponing to a later date. Being that most of your guests will probably already placed their deposits and most likely already bought their airfare, it would be most beneficial for everyone to postpone rather than canceling the entire trip and losing their money altogether, because they would lose everything that they already paid unless they had travel insurance. Should some of your guests want to cancel regardless, then it's their own personal decision at that point, and hopefully they have purchased their travel insurance. So you decided to postpone. Now what? As I mentioned before, definitely give yourself time to grieve and go through the process processing your emotions. Then once you are ready to move forward with a new game plan, talk to your wedding planner if you have one, and really start reviewing every single one of your contracts for every single vendor. After that, talk to your venue right away. See what date options they have available for 6 to 12 months. You don't want to go too close and have to postpone again. So 6 to 12 months out from your wedding date. Understand that they will be limited. They're very limited with so many people trying to postpone, plus their already weddings that they already had booked. So if your original date was on a Saturday, you might want to be open to Fridays and Sundays, but even those might be difficult. So, realize that Saturdays are probably all booked up. So if you really want more options and you really want to make sure that you can keep all of your vendors and that they'll have availability, think about a booking for a Monday through Thursday wedding. All of your guests understand what you're going through and what you're dealing with. They will still come if they want to enjoy it with you. So, be flexible if you can. Then from those dates, I would pick the top 2 or 3 options that they give you and send them out to all of your vendors right away to see which one has the most success with your most important vendors. Then once they get back to you and you see, which ones works best, I would lock it in right away and request contract addendums for each one of your vendors. Very important. Make sure you have that updated contract for everyone. That date might not work for every single one of your vendors, so you might need to find a new one. And again, talk to your wedding planner for their preferred vendors. And after you choose your new vendors, make sure you have everyone's on board. Then you're going to inform all of your guests what the new date is. And once your guests have been notified, then you can continue planning just as usual.
With a lot of weddings from this time in 2020, further into the spring and possibly even summer, moving into fall of 2020 and even further into 2021, it's likely that some of your wedding vendors may not be available on your new wedding date. If that's the case, your wedding planner would be able to suggest a replacement for that vendor from their preferred vendor list. So ask them, see who they recommend, give their vendors a look over. But if you aren't working with a planner, ask the vendor who's unable to accommodate your new date if they have a recommendation. In the wedding industry, a lot of vendors work together with what would be their competition. We kind of rely on one another, lean on one another, so they may have someone that they could recommend that they know would do a good job for you. Also, be sure to review your contract with the vendor who's unable to attend. You may have some fees that are still due to them, or you may be interested in asking for a refund from them. I just suggest that you approach that subject kind of compassionately. Remember that the deposits that you made months ago have been keeping that vendor's business running smoothly to this point. It's keeping their families fed, and it accounts for some of the time that they've already invested in your wedding. They may have passed on some other business in order to take on your wedding day, so we just need to make sure clients are being respectful of vendors and vice versa. It's a tough time for everyone. I just think that everyone should try to remember that. And if you approach the topic with compassion, I bet you can come to an agreement that's, I guess, beneficial, complimentary for both of you.
Notifying guests may seem like such a daunting task, especially if you have a really large guest list. But take a step back and think about it. How did you notify them that you were getting married in the first place? Right? So you likely already have all their contact information from when you collected their address. And to save time, take the digital approach. A lot of stationers are offering their clients digital change the date notices that even match their invitation suite. So post that up to your wedding website, and from there, share your wedding website with everyone. You can email it, text it, create a Facebook group. You can share it there. And for guests that don't have access to your website or the internet, print a couple of them out and mail them like you would your wedding invitations. And many websites have the capability of collecting RSVPs for you too. So just make sure that guests know when they need to have the new RSVPs in by, and then manually keep track of the ones that you mailed out. But an insider tip, if you have a wedding planner, ask them if that's a service that they'd be willing to provide. Might make it a little bit easier on you. Money, right? Okay, so this one's tricky for so many reasons, but it's gonna fall down to the individual vendor that you're working with. There is no one size fits all when it comes to contracts, and every vendor is gonna have different requirements, especially now, right? Nobody's experienced this before. This is a pandemic. Whose contracts have that included in them? There are a few, yes, but a lot don't have those. So new payment schedules can be really tricky. Some vendors, they have the ability to delay those payments, and that's awesome. They can readjust the payment schedule based on your new date. Great, but some vendors, they are relying on those payments on the originally scheduled date. They already have their business expenses, and they need to keep a roof over their heads too. They do want to ensure that they're still a business and that they can provide their services by the time your wedding comes around. So without those payments, they might not be able to guarantee that. Clients and vendors, they've both been put in a really difficult spot. You know, we recognize that some of our clients have lost their income. They can't make those payments anymore. So the third alternative that I'm really loving that I've been seeing is when clients and vendors can work together to split up the payments. You know, maybe instead of your final payment being due next month, 50% of it's due, and then the remaining 50% is due a little bit later. But yeah, I really think that working with our clients and really understanding what they're going through and being sympathetic to their needs too will go a long way.
I've actually had that question asked a couple times, if there's any way that they can still get married on their wedding date, their original wedding date, even though they have to reschedule their reception. And I'm a wedding planner because I'm a huge fan of marriage, and I like to keep the focus there. So I say if you have your heart set on marrying the love of your life on a certain date on the calendar, find every way to make that happen. It may mean that you have to celebrate with your friends and family at a later date, but at least you'll have that date as your anniversary for years and years to come until happily ever after. The logistics of that can be very hard at this time, and the legality of it varies by municipality. So I would suggest that you check with your local municipal clerk in your town to see if they are allowing weddings and if there is a justice of the peace available and willing to perform that ceremony for you. While we're on lockdown, that scenario may be more difficult, but I think this is a great option for those who are postponing their weddings in like May through July for fears that their guests may not want to come. Hopefully by then the restrictions will be lifted, but you may have already postponed your wedding because people don't want to gather in groups. So this could be a great option for you to go ahead and get the legality of the wedding behind you on that originally scheduled day. I'm sure Jasmine and Desiree will agree when I say that at the end of a planning process, we often have clients calling us like, what do I do next? What's next? What should I be doing? Because the common thought is as you get closer to a wedding, brides and grooms are supposed to be going crazy, frazzled, running around. But if they've done the process correctly, there's really not much to do as you're leading up through those last few weeks of the wedding planning process. So now we're getting the question from clients who have pushed their weddings out several months, a year even, what am I supposed to do now? Well, the answer could be simple. The answer could be nothing. Just sit back, enjoy your engagement, and cherish the time that you guys have together between now and your new wedding date. There's another option though. A lot of us planners are type A, so we're always dotting I's and crossing T's. So you can go ahead and go through everything that you've done, see if that's how you want it to be done, if there's any way you can improve upon it. There's also a silver lining that I've offered to some of my clients who have had to move their date. I tell them to review everything, revisit your budget. Did you want a videographer and you couldn't afford them, say, on your original wedding date? Now you have an extra 6 months. Is that something that you can budget for, something that you can work in? And then you have to go ahead and look for that vendor. I'm always an advocate for special entertainment, vintage cars, maybe a wedding coordinator. I don't know. Look it over again and see if there's anything that you can fit in now that you have a little bit of time, hopefully a little bit more time to make a couple more dollars to put towards your wedding, and see if there's anything else you want to add. This is a great question. Couples who are starting to plan their 2021 wedding, we're now recommending that you jump in pretty quickly and pick your vendors, book the vendors that are super important to you. I always tell my clients to list out their priorities of their vendors as to what's personally important to them. For some, it's your catering. For some, it's your entertainment. It's whatever is most important to you as a couple. Definitely start booking those important vendors super quickly, because you have 2 years worth of couples that are basically being squished into the prime wedding season of 2021. All of your 2020s are moving into 2021. So your vendors that would have been available for 2021, they may now be rebooked with a originally scheduled 2021 wedding. So yeah, that's kind of important to get a start on that. Hair, makeup artists, DJs, things along those lines. Pick your favorite and get them booked.
Yeah, so we created this submission form for couples to make it super easy to get their questions answered. So if you supply your contact information, we can respond right back to you with the answers. But if you prefer to stay anonymous, which you can do, we do have a Facebook group, so we'll be posting all the answers there and you can follow along. Whether you're engaged or you're a vendor, we'd love to have you join us there because we're all in this together.
Jasmine, Desiree, and I are all so thankful that you're here for this information session. None of us are huge fans of being on video. We like to be behind the scenes. That's why we're wedding planners. So thanks for bearing with us. We hope that we provided you with some really good information. We're here if you have any other questions. There is a Facebook group that I'm sure we're going to link to, New Jersey Wedding Rescue. The three of us are certified wedding planners through the Bridal Society, and we are moderators of that group. So if there's any questions that you have you can just post them there. One of the three of us will get you back a good qualified answer and hopefully help you along your way through this process. As Jasmine said, to start the little video, we're all super, super sorry that you're going through this. It's something none of us can control, but your outlook on it can carry you through, I believe. So as long as we keep our eye on the prize that you're going to be married and start your happily ever after very soon, I think we'll all get through it pretty easily. There's one last question that we haven't addressed, and we're not here for the promo aspect of it, but we did get a question like, why would you hire a wedding planner now that you've rescheduled your wedding? So you've planned the whole thing. It's ready to go. It's ready to roll out in the next few months. You hadn't thought about having a planner, and now you want to know, why would this be like a change of heart and you would go ahead and get a planner? The answer to me is because you've already done enough. You've done it. You've put your heart into it. I give you great, great, great accolades for doing it on your own. But there's a little bit of a difference that comes with planning the original wedding and executing the wedding on wedding day and rescheduling that wedding. So we've been through it. We're doing it. We're doing it every day. We're helping clients along. We're helping them when their hair and makeup artist can't be there. We're quickly going into our arsenal and pulling out another makeup artist that we feel would fit their style. So there's also, like, if you were originally planning a wedding in spring and now you're getting married in the fall, you have your color scheme picked, but it's pretty for May and June, now that you're getting married in maybe October and November, how do we make those colors, those bridesmaids dresses mesh with the season? That's something that one of the three of us or another wedding planner could help you through and make sure that you get your look and feel of the wedding, but in a different season. So if you're looking for a planner, please make sure you get a certified planner. But above all, at this point, stay home, stay safe, stay focused, and happy wedding planning.
Thank you, Billie, and thanks, Jasmine and Desiree as well. I think that's all really, really awesome advice, and hopefully that can help you as you're trying to navigate this crazy time as far as it goes with your wedding. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram. We're going to keep you updated. We're going to try to give you content that is not just virus related, but also things that you can do right now to help with your wedding planning. So stay tuned and happy planning.